Welcome into the Stardom Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Stefen McKinney, joined by Ashton Mitchell and Jacob Stevens, as always. We're recording a little early this week. We're doing a Sunday night show. How was y'all's weekend?
Too short, man. Too short.
Yeah, I played a really bad 9 holes of golf today. Kind of top off my weekend, really get me going. Excited for the week ahead. Sunday scaries have kicked in, but glad we're doing this. Definitely helps with that.
Yeah. Looking forward to the show. We're 1 week closer to the start of the NFL season. That's always exciting. I kind of look at that as, every Sunday we have from now on is 1 week closer to our first NFL Sunday this year. So that's always exciting. We do have a good show for you. We're going to be wrapping up our top 24 running backs. We're going to do the 11 NFC running backs that we have left on our list. We went over the 13 AFC running backs that we had in our top 24 on last week's episode, so make sure to check that out if you haven't already. But yeah, now we're just going to finish off our top 24, and we'll move on to wide receivers next week.
Going to the superior NFC. I just wanted to add that.
Superior in terms of how high we have them, but maybe inferior in terms of the total amount that are on the top 24.
Yeah, I guess.
One quick piece of news. I know this is a little bit more hurtful for Ashton than it is for us, but Darius Guice, who Ashton had so much hopes and dreams for, has been released from the Washington football team following multiple domestic violence claims. But it does make some room for your guy Antonio Gibson or possibly the vet with Adrian Peterson. How do you see that situation shaking out now that Darius Guice is gone?
I think AP's value and Antonio Gibson's value is going to take a big jump forward. I'm still working on my rankings with the adjustment of and the changes with that franchise, but we'll touch base on that, I'm sure, later in the week. But yeah, I mean, they're going to get a lot more high value pick and drafts come up than they would have if Guice was still around. So good for them, bad for Guice. So
Peyton Barber is going to get in there and eat up all that stuff, man. I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
I don't know yet. I still think Bryce Love has a chance to sneak in there and be a contender. So
yeah, that's the problem with not having that preseason where we can't really kind of see where they're going to figure things out.
This is where it hurts. Yeah, exactly.
There's still a lot of running backs in that running back room. We're not 100% sure who is going to be the guy come week one. But I mean, we've already started to see, like, even from when we first started doing our mock draft as we did as a podcast, we saw Antonio Gibson going literally one of the last 2 rounds, whereas when we did our versus the other night, I think he was going a little bit earlier, maybe round 11, round 12, somewhere in there. So you should see that value start to come even higher. You can even, it wouldn't be a surprise if he breaks top 100 in terms of where he's getting drafted. I think some hype's going to be starting to get built around him now that he does have an opportunity to step forward. So we'll have to see what happens in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, Gibson's already going as early as 30, 31 running back overall in some drafts. Yep.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. But let's talk a little bit about some of our higher up running backs, some of the running backs I'm more excited about. We'll jump right into it. With our number 1 running back consensus, Ashton and I both have him as our running back 1. Jacob at running back 3, which was quite a surprise. But Christian McCaffrey was running back 1 last year, 123 points between him and the second place running back. So it was by quite the margin. He had a third place finish in 2018, 11th place finish in his rookie season in 2017. Do you guys think Teddy Bridgewater hurts his value? Do you think it increases his value? What do you think of that new situation there?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and just kind of elaborate on my contrarian ranking of number 3 all the way down there. Mainly what concerns me is just everything is new in Carolina. I mean, everything's changed. A lot of the vets have left. And I know this doesn't – it does affect their fantasy outlook when it's a whole new coach, brand new QB. It's scary. And they were bad last year. I think they might even be even worse. I don't know. He had a great season, obviously. I'm not doubting his talent or anything like that. I'm just hoping the real what you need is for him to get those targets like he does and the receptions. He had 141 targets last year and 116 receptions. He had over 100 receptions the year before. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, he's an accurate quarterback, and he does like to check down to the running backs, but we just haven't seen enough of it because Alvin Kamara didn't do great with him. And that's really just kind of my main concerns with McCaffrey, but there's no doubting his elite talent he has.
Yeah, I'm on the opposite end with that. I think even through all the change, the consistency would be the talent within Christian McCaffrey, whether it's the run game or him as a receiving back. And with Teddy Bridgewater, I think they, especially on the dink and dunk passes, I mean, it just seems like an easy setup. So I'm not questioning reliability or opportunity there whatsoever. Even with the changes that are happening in Carolina, I think it's just green to go. So
yeah, I see your background, bud. I see your virtual background.
There he is, ready to go.
Yeah, I don't think the change hurts McCaffrey either. I mean, the season that he had last year with Kyle Allen leading that team it speaks volumes on its own. He's too good as just an all around running back. He's going to get the ball so many freaking times. It's unbelievable. He just has all the talent, all the opportunity in the world. I think his range of outcomes is so small. It's between running back one, like the worst possible scenario I can see for McCaffrey this year, barring injury, would be running back 5 as the lowest I can see McCaffrey finishing. I can't see him
at 3. I mean, come on, give me a break.
I think you'll hear when we talk about McCaffrey, Zeke, and Saquon. I think they're so good at running, like as running backs, that they're not going to finish outside of that,
right.
top tier running backs. Like I think those are your 3 safest guys. That's why they're in their own tier. But once you get out of those top 3, I think your range of outcomes becomes a little larger. You can get a little bit, a little more hesitant on the picks. But I think we're all really high up on Chris McCaffrey. No, nobody thinks he's not going to be great this year. Jacob just thinks he might be running back 3, which is okay.
Thank you.
Next up on our list is Ezekiel Elliott. We all actually have him ranked down as our running back 2 on the year. We saw him finish as running back 4 last year, 5 the year before, 10 the year before that, and 2 in his rookie season. What do you guys think for Zeke this year? Do you think, the new head coach and them taking a wide receiver in the first round kind of shows that they're focusing more on the passing game, or do you still think it's going to be the Zeke show in Dallas?
It's definitely going to be the Zeke show. We've seen it year after year. The offense runs through him. Kellen Moore is still there, who was the offensive coordinator last year. And you said he finished 4 last year.
Yeah.
He had a holdout. He was delayed to training camp, everything. I mean, obviously this year is kind of weird too, but I think he is the safest. He's going to get that volume. He's had over 300 touches. So his complete seasons, he's had over 300 touches or just rushes off the bat. But what I do want to see for him to really kind of stay where he is safe is just kind of make sure those receptions and targets kind of stay a little bit higher than where they were last year. I mean, 70 targets isn't bad with 54 receptions. Just want to get it, just kind of stay there, or maybe a little bit higher. And like you said, they did take CeeDee Lamb, but I think it's going to open it up for Dak and Zeke as well, just to catch some more passes, because they're going to be down the field trying to guard the best wide receiver core in the NFL. So, yeah.
I think they're going to try to play smart football this year, and I think in that approach, they're going to rely on their solid players, and their solid player number 1 is Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, aside from under center with Dak Prescott, but there's so much seems to be so much tension between that anyways. So I think you're going to see a lot of run game here. And I think Jacob's right. I'm looking at the receptions and the targets here. It's a little low, especially as a number 2 overall running back, but I don't know. We could see those maybe go up this year. I agree. I think they should go up. Considering 2018, he had 95 targets and 77 receptions with 3 touchdowns. So he took a dip last year for sure. So maybe they'll bounce back this year.
Yeah, I think he's the safest pick that you can have in fantasy drafts. I know everybody wants Christian McCaffrey based on what he did last year. But I think Zeke has shown, like, the one time he finished as running back 10, he played 10 games. That was the year where, things got a little dicey. Yeah. But but just a stat that I saw that was very interesting to me was that he's posted running back 2 or better numbers in 92.9% of his career games, which is better than any running back ever charted. The next closest being Le'Veon Bell, who's 87% of the time. So, I mean, if you're going to get a guy posting running back 2 numbers week in and week out, 92% of the time, like, that's about as consistent as they come. And at a position like running back, which just gets so like scarce so quickly, I think Zeke is such like a cornerstone that you can have on your fantasy team when you're really trying to build that stable of running backs. So I don't think it gets much safer than Zeke. But that leads us into our.
Let me add one more thing on that. I mentioned it last show, but he already had COVID, so no other big time running back can say that. So that's kind of it really is a risk. It's that you don't have to take of losing your top running back for 2 weeks or however they're going to work that the COVID sicknesses and where they put them, everything like that.
Yep.
Just a thought.
Next up on our list, coming in as consensus running back number 3 for us. Ashton and I have him at 3. Jacob has him all the way as whopping number 1 running back for him. Saquon Barkley finishes the number 10 running back last year on 13 games and the number 2 running back in his rookie season back in 2018. Jacob, you think he's going to break the mold and be the running back 1? Why is that?
It kind of goes back to that first season. When he was his rookie season, he really broke out in a big way. And last year, he got injured. He came back too fast, and he was still the running back 10. I really think that the team's going to be better this year. They got obviously Jason Garrett, the clapper himself, will be clapping him along the sidelines, getting him the ball the way they fed Zeke. So that kind of gets me excited. And I think the Giants, like I said, I think they're going to have a better season overall, which will kind of help that game script and hopefully keep them on the field longer. That's a thing with some of these top running backs when they're blowing people out. They're going to have their backups in, and they're not going to complete those games. But I think him and Christian McCaffrey are kind of very similar players. Like their receiving game is just elite, and you saw Saquon. He'll break off some runs and really just get you a lot of points and win you weeks. And like we were saying with Zeke, that doesn't happen quite as often, but he's just 100. I mean, okay, he's 92.9% super consistent on just being an RB2. But I think Saquon can really bust out some of those big games, and that's why I've got him at 1. And say quads. You've seen those quads, boys. Woo!
He does have some tree trunks there. Yeah, I agree. His rookie year was just unbelievable. And he took a dip last year with missing 3 games. I don't think
the high ankle sprain, man.
I don't think the gameplay was particularly written out for him the way it should have been last year when he was playing. So, I think they're going to see an increase with that. I think they're going to utilize him more. I don't know, but I also feel like they're going to give Daniel Jones a lot more opportunity to throw the ball too. But that could potentially, if they can get ahead of the game and start, taking leads in games, then they'll potentially run the ball more. So more opportunity for Saquon.
Yep. Yeah, I think they made some big moves this offseason to improve their line. I feel like their offensive line was just so terrible last year. And it seemed like Saquon was really the only moving piece that the Giants offense had most weeks. I know there's a couple standout games for Daniel Jones, but I mean, the fact what Saquon Barkley did last year with the team that he had in front of him was very impressive. And I think Daniel Jones will take that step forward in year 2, especially with Jason Garrett, a former NFL quarterback himself, really kind of taking the reins on making sure he does get that step forward, which I think will open up the offense a little bit more for Saquon to continue to do what he's done the last 2 years. So again, out of those, I mean, these three top guys, you can't go wrong with any of the three. But from here on, I think it just you have a lot more inconsistency, you have a lot more question marks, that kind of thing. But those three, nothing to be mad about getting in your draft. If you get one of those top three picks, those are the guys you got to go.
Yeah, like Stefen did in our versus draft, pick number 2.
Exactly. Coming in as our consensus running back 4, being drafted as the 4th person off the board, actually. Alvin Kamara. Jacob and Ashton, you both have him at 4. I have him a little bit lower at 5. So quite the dip there. Last year, had a little bit of a down year. Finishes running back 12. Running back 4 in 2018 and running back 3 in 2017. I think it was a little bit of disappointment last year that this was his first year without Mark Ingram. He really got the chance to be the guy for New Orleans, and I feel like he kind of let some of his fantasy owners down for where they drafted him. Do you think the fact that he had all the, spotlight on him, he didn't have Mark Ingram to kind of follow behind, hurt him, or what do you think happened last year?
Yeah, I don't know. Last year was, it was his worst season so far.
He was injured too. He only started 9 of the 14 games he did end up playing. So that is that he's another bounce back from injury kind of candidate. Same with Saquon, but go ahead, Ashton.
Well, yeah, just diving into that, I think you're going to find some of these top 10 running backs, every once in a while, every other season, that you're going to find one that has a really off season. And I think last year was just an off season for Alvin Kamara. I think through the injury, I don't know what else was going on as far as, maybe on or off the field issues, but it wasn't lining up to his normal season and his normal potential. And the numbers kind of reflected that. I think just overall, I think he has to take his worst season last year and, naturally have a bounce back season this year. He's still working with Drew Brees. Drew Brees' arm, while still very strong and powerful, is declining a little bit. So I do see more potential for short passes to Kamara, dumps out on the side. So, and I think they're still going to ultimately pass the ball a ton. So I'm looking for more receptions and more targets towards Alvin Kamara this year. The past 2017, 2018, he had 100 and then 105 in 2018. All
Did
3
you notice
years,
the receptions?
81 receptions
81
for
receptions.
each year. Yeah. So, and last year he only had 97 targets. So, naturally, I think that's just going to bounce back to probably over 100 this year.
Yeah.
And I think the first 2 years are kind of low on the count for that too, and just based on how they formulate their game plan. So I think they're going to use them big time this year, and I definitely see more outside passes to him as well. So look for high reception targets, high yards on that as well.
Yeah. So what I'm looking for Kamara to bounce back is really just to stay healthy, stay on the field. You said Mark Ingram left, but Latavius Murray's he's not just nobody. When he stepped in, he did really well. I think he was a running back 1 of like almost every time he was in those games starting.
And he was a starting running back before.
Right, exactly. With
like he's not
the Vikings. So that kind of that's still concerning. That could limit him a bit, just having that option. Because you look at his attempts over his career, he hasn't broke 200 rushing attempts. So that's. Right. But obviously, he's very consistent with the receptions, and that actually went down to 1 reception touchdown last year.
Yep.
Again, he was injured, but I'm even add 2 more to that. Obviously he's going to try to do 81 receptions again because why not?
Gotta go for it, yeah.
But if he gets over 200 attempts, I think he'll be just fine. And he's always been super effective when he's out there, healthy.
Yeah, kind of just piggybacking off what you just said, that the one thing that does worry me about Kamara's upside is that he isn't utilized as heavily in the running aspect as some of these top guys that we just talked about. Right. Zeke's going to get 300 carries a year. Saquon's going to get 270 plus. McCaffrey got 300 carries last year. These guys are constantly getting the ball in their hands. And I know that you see with Kamara, he's going to get really targeted as a receiving back, but he's not going to get the ball as many times running even though he's been super effective, like he has a career average of 5 yards a carry. Like that's incredible. Like, so when he has the opportunity, he's taking advantage of it. It's just if the Saints will actually start to game plan him in and make him that feature back, getting 225 to 240, somewhere in that range is where he needs to be to really lock himself in as that top 5 running back in fantasy.
But you look at 2018, and he had 14 rushing touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
His yards overall, I mean, he's never broken 1,000 yards in rushing. So
that's why that receptions that's like those receiving touchdowns are so important for him too.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
yes.
I mean, when you got a team like that and you got the best wide receiver in the NFL, it's tough to for the offense to run through him. And also, obviously, they have Latavius Murray there, so if they have a little bit more balance, I think we could see a good season bounce back for him.
Next up on our list, coming in at running back 5 overall, we have Dalvin Cook. You two both have him as your running back 5. I have him at running back 4. Just a little switcheroo with Kamara there. Finished as running back 5 last year. Was a career year for him. Finally got the chance to stay healthy. He didn't finish all 16 games, but he got 14 games out of Dalvin Cook last year, which was quite the improvement for Dalvin Cook, what we've seen. He had an injury-riddled start to his career, 4 games in his rookie season, 11 games in 2018, and 14 games last year. But still got 250 carries. So obviously they want him to be the guy in Minnesota. They want to make him that feature back for him. So again, when you have so many opportunities, like some of these guys, like and he's a super talented guy. So I can't think of any reason why he would take a step back from what we saw last year, except for the injuries.
Yep.
Yeah, he's heavily utilized in the receiving game, just like all these other guys that we've spoken about. Had 53 receptions last year, 500 plus yards. So there's no question mark in terms of where is he not bringing value, like some of the guys we'll get to a little bit later in this episode. But I mean, overall, super well-rounded. He's going to get all the opportunity. Nobody's challenging him for that starting spot. I can't see any reason for him to take a step back this year. Do you guys see any sort of different sort of possible outcomes for Dalvin Cook outside of getting injured?
No, I mean, with Stephon Diggs gone, I think they're going to use him more in the passing game, like you mentioned. Justin Jefferson might see some of those touches in lieu of that, but I don't think it's going to hurt him tremendously, and I still think his numbers will probably go up with that. And I didn't know this, but he led the league with 21 carries inside the 5-yard line. I mean,
wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's a beast. He's a goal line pounder. So, I mean, hopefully they keep using him for that use and in those scenarios, and he keeps ranking up those touchdowns. And I mean, I think he does rely. If you do use him, he is more reliable with being touchdown dependent. But if they keep using him within the red zone like that, then it's going to be I think it's going to be a good situation.
Yeah, I'll just I definitely agree with you guys. And the only thing I want to see is just kind of like you guys were saying, a little bit more, or maybe a little bit more work with the receptions and just staying healthy. I mean, that was 14 games, and I think he left that last game a little early because actually when I remember last year, I actually drafted him, because these people with injuries, they will bounce back and then they'll do something like this. We got the question with Kamara. So sometimes you got to take the chance and just hope they stay healthy.
So with the draft capital that you have to spend on Dalvin Cook, he's currently being the 5th running back off the board, 7th overall. Does that worry you? I mean, 7th overall is a good draft positioning. Yeah, I mean, you're right at the back half of your drafts to start it off. Like, that's a high capital pick. Does that worry you that he hasn't been able to finish a full 16-game season? Are you trying to look somewhere else because of that?
Well, what I would say is if you're going to take Dalvin Cook, there's no question on the talent. Like you said, it is about staying healthy. But what he is going to give you, no matter how many games you have him, is going to be worth that draft pick, I think. Just what he provides and the value. And just cover your tracks, really. Take Alexander Mattison. I know he goes kind of early because he's one of the top handcuffs in the league. If you're really worried about it, that's your best bet to kind of stay safe and covered.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you're in a position where he's the best running back on the board, I have him at 5 right now. if he's there, I'm snagging him 100%. And like Jacob was saying, if I can get Alexander Madison on the back tail of that, then that's a handcuff that I need to have, because Alexander Madison has RB1 talent, but is
we
that
saw
RB2? Yeah, I mean, so but I don't put him in like a Chris Carson situation where he's not as dependable in my mind. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think he still has a lot more durability in that situation, and they're going to use him more than they probably would a Chris Carson situation. So,
Yeah.
not at that level yet for me. I still think he's a top 5 running back.
Okay. Well, we haven't graded as such, but we take a little bit of a dip between where Dalvin Cook is to our next NFC running back. Those AFC running backs we talked about last week kind of filled the holes there, but Kenyon Drake is our next ranked NFC running back, coming in at running back 11. I'm the highest on him at 10. Jacob, you have him at 12, and Ashton at 11. For me, he finished as running back 16 last year, but was running back 4 once being traded to Arizona in week 9. So I think that system was just the perfect match for Kenyon Drake's skill set. Cliff Kingsbury likes to get his team constantly moving, really short snaps, and likes Kenyon Drake's super explosive out of the backfield. He's one of those quick, shifty type of running backs who can be a great threat as a wide receiver as well. You can plug him into the slot. He can catch the ball in the flats. Like he's pretty good all around. He's not really that type of guy that's you're gonna put him right to the middle of the line and kind of find his hole. He's more of a guy who's gonna get around the outside and kind of break away some long runs. But I am excited to see a full season with Kenyon Drake in this system. I think it's going to be just pure magic for Kenyon Drake. We've never seen him be super elite. Last year was his highest finish of running back 16, and he's currently being drafted as running back 11. So people are sticking with the hype, and they expect him to have that career year. How do you guys see this system playing out for him? Do you see the full 16 games with Arizona being a good fit?
Absolutely. I mean, let's just break down 2019 real quick. So he played 6 games in Miami. He had 47 attempts, 175 yards with 0 touchdowns. Then he gets moved to Arizona, picks up 123 attempts, 643 yards with 8 touchdowns. I mean, the talent's there. They just weren't using him. And there was a disconnect in Miami 100%. And he found his home in Arizona, and they're going to continue to roll just in that fashion this year as they did last year. So yeah, the talent's there, the opportunity's there now, and I think it's going to be a home run. So don't hesitate.
I'm definitely a little more hesitant. What week did you say he came over? Was it 9? You said?
Yeah, week 9.
Yep.
So okay, he came over. He had a big week. Over 24. He had 24 points, but for the next 4 games, he didn't break 8 points.
He's still learning the offense.
I'm just saying, like what Stefen he was talking about earlier. Like we haven't seen a full season of it, and that's what terrifies me. I don't know what's going to happen. They got DeAndre Hopkins out there. Kyler Murray's a mobile quarterback, and I do agree he did really fit the scheme once it got going. But it's just. He's so early, it just scares me. It's really tough to make those decisions with the running backs that early.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand the concern and the hesitancy, but you also have to look at the opportunity and the talent. I mean, when you're looking at fantasy value, you have to look at I think this is what Matthew Berry from ESPN says. It comes with opportunity and talent, and if the talent's there and they have the opportunity, then that's a solid pick, and that's exactly what's going on here now with Kenyon Drake. And that's why, he's just outside top 10 running back right now. And I think you're going to see that come through this year. I mean, hopefully he stays healthy, COVID free and injury free. But, outside of that, I think it's a shoe-in.
We will see, my friend.
It's a little bit of varying outlooks on Kenyon Drake and kind of the question marks around him. We still see him as a running back 1, so still no doubts there. Everybody has him graded as such. But our next running back, consensus running back 12, who is also rated, everybody has him rated as a running back 1 as well. Aaron Jones. We saw the upside that he does have. He finished as running back 2 last year. He finally got the chance to be the lead guy. Everybody was begging for it. We finally saw that last year, and he produced 16 rushing touchdowns, which is, I think, the area that is a little worrisome. Just that's almost impossible to maintain 16 rushing touchdowns, especially given the fact that he doesn't get the ball as much as some of these other running backs that we've seen. He had 236 attempts last year. Converting 16 of those into touchdowns is very, very impressive. Tacked on another 3 receiving touchdowns. So a lot of that value did come from the actual touchdowns themselves. He still had 1,000+ rushing yards. Still was a great running back in the NFL. They went ahead and drafted a running back this year, I think around 3.
4.
Yep.
Around
Was
4.
it 3? Was it 3 or 4?
Yeah, it was
3,
somewhere high up, yeah.
AJ Dillon.
Okay.
He's got the makeup to be Derrick Henry light or 2.0.
They still have
scary
Jamal Williams, so they have some options there. You still have Aaron Rodgers kind of leading that way. If it's up to him, he's going to be slinging the ball 40+ times a game. But Matt LaFleur seems to have a different game plan in mind, and he kind of showed through last year of making Aaron Jones kind of the highlight, the focal point of that offense. What are y'all's concerns about Aaron Jones? Do you think he gets some of those touches taken away? I know we talked about the touchdowns already coming down. But what other question marks do you guys really have around Aaron Jones?
It's exactly what you just said. The game plan and what's going to happen out there. I mean, last year was amazing. Even if he comes back down to maybe 10 touchdowns, I don't think that would be insane. I think he could still provide a lot of value as long as he keeps those receptions maybe over 50. You can say he had 49 last year. I mean, obviously Aaron Rodgers. He's getting old. I just want to see Stefen's face because I know he gets upset when I talk bad about old man Rodgers. But I think there'll be a little bit more balance this year as well, and he's gonna regress a little bit to the mean. But I mean, I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough situation. Him and Kenyon Drake, it's kind of the same thing because that was a breakout year for Aaron Jones. But we obviously saw he has the talent. So if he gets the attempts and he gets the usage, I have no questions about him.
I mean, that's my concern is the attempts and how much they're going to have a split committee there.
Right. Oh yeah, and because AJ, sorry, I forgot to mention. Go ahead, dive on that.
I mean, it's just scary to think about how efficient Aaron Jones is as a running back in the NFL, and they still are borderline, treating him as a borderline running back too. It's mind baffling. How many years were we just, chanting free Aaron Jones, and it never seemed to happen until last year. They finally started to pick up the pace, but now they're, talking about this running back by committee, and it makes me nervous about his use again. So I think just based off of his talent alone, his efficiency for when he does get the ball and when he does play, he's still a strong contender, but I'm just worried about how much that's really going to happen.
Yep.
And it's scary to think how good he would be if he was a full-blown RB1, you know what I mean? And they just built that offense kind of around him, how awesome that would be. But I just don't think that's a possibility right now.
Yeah. I mean, are we putting too much worry into the fact that they went ahead and drafted a running back as their 3rd-round pick? I think we could be. I think we're maybe, building up the situation to be more than it is. I mean, they also drafted a quarterback in round 1, but Aaron Rodgers isn't getting replaced. So
no,
go ahead.
I think it's different with running backs, obviously, but I think Matt LaFleur likes to have that running back by committee, that timeshare. So I don't think they're going to ground and pound with just Aaron Jones as, a 3-down back. I think you're going to see the ball, flipped around on that. I think, they're going to hand the ball off to a few different running backs here in this situation. And it's not going to be, especially, I think they're going to probably try to contain it. If they do this, they're going to probably try to contain the health and safety of Aaron Jones. So if later in the season they can be a contender for the playoffs. I mean, they were one game away from the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? I don't know why they didn't draft wide receivers, but that's a whole other conversation. So
yeah, we've had that conversation plenty.
I mean,
but
Green Bay is just don't get me started.
Yeah, AJ Dillon. That's the only kind of thing that worries me. We already said it, his touchdowns are going to regress, and if A.J. Dillon takes more of those, then he's going to kind of fall out of that top tier.
Yep. So let me ask you one more question. There's currently 3 NFC running backs being drafted in round 2 of fantasy drafts according to consensus ADP over multiple sites. We have Kenyon Drake, who we just talked about, as well as Aaron Jones, and then the last running back being Miles Sanders. Out of those 3 names, not even going off your current rankings, but just when they come to your head, who is the guy that you would kind of target there if you had that second round pick and all 3 were available?
If I knew Aaron Jones was a 3-down back and their go-to guy throughout 16 games,
you can't know that. You just it just comes to you. You got.
It would be Aaron Jones, but no. I mean, on top of that, I'm going Kenyon Drake. I mean,
I hate the Eagles, so that makes it really hard for me to like Miles Sanders. But what he did last year was pretty impressive. And like I said, Kenyon Drake scares me. I think Aaron Jones is like my last on that of those 3. I'd probably why you gotta do something like that to me? I'd probably go Sanders.
Yeah, I was looking at my rankings with Miles Sanders, and I feel like I was too low on him. I mean, he did finish as running back 15 last year, but that was only on 179 attempts. I currently have him rated as my running back 16, which I don't think it's possible for him to finish that low. So I do think I'm a little low on him. We've seen the upside with Aaron Jones. We've seen how good he can be. You got flashes of Kenyon Drake for half a season. I think I'm going to go Drake just because the system, and he's going to be the guy there 100%, you know?
Well, so my other thing with Miles Sanders is I feel like everyone's either opted out or injured in Philadelphia. So, you know, Jalen Reagor is going to be thrown into that. Alshon Jeffrey won't be back. So I think he's going to definitely absorb some of those touches.
Yeah, that's 100% fair. But before we get to Miles Sanders, we actually have our consensus running back 14 as Todd Gurley. Made the move over to Atlanta, finished as running back 14 last year. He had a career low in attempts, wasn't utilized in the passing game like we have seen him be so heavily utilized in the years past. I mean, he has an opportunity now in Atlanta to kind of revamp his career and show that, you know, that ACL issue isn't really a thing anymore. He's not really going to have many people contending with him for, you know, getting snaps taken away from him. So he's got to be the guy. What are your expectations for how Atlanta's going to utilize him? Do you think he'll be more of a target in the passing game than he was last year in LA, or?
Yeah, I think if you look at the past few years, obviously the attempts on the ground, it was about 30 less than what it had been the year before, and then even 50 lower than it had been a couple years before that. But I think the big drop off last year was the receptions. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he came down from 788 yards and receptions on 2017, 2018, 580. Then last year, 200 yards. I mean, when he was on top of the world, you know, he was doing it both. And for him to get back to that, I think those receptions need to go back up. I think they're kind of protecting him last year. That's why we saw that usage dip because of TG broken knee. And hopefully this year, like you said, he doesn't really have anyone to contend with him. So I think he's going to have this injury concern the rest of his career. I think he went from a bad O-line to another bad O-line, but if the usage is up, I think he'll make it worth it to definitely draft him. He's been over 12 touchdowns the last 3 seasons, and that's kind of where where he makes his money.
Yeah, I agree. I think the last time he dipped under 1,000 yards in rushing, he came back to over 1,300 yards. So
yeah, he did.
I don't know if he's going to reach 1,300 this year, but who knows? I mean, Atlanta's a high-scoring offense, and they're going to use them in both rushing and passing. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I'm hoping for the best in this situation, but Todd Gurley is Todd Gurley. But I don't think it's going to be the same situation as his last season in Los Angeles.
Yep. Yeah, and my only worry with Todd Gurley outside of, the ACL and making sure that knee is healthy is his value in fantasy has always been so heavily emphasized. And he always provides touchdowns.
Yep.
which I think a lot of that was a result of that LA offense and how they kind of game planned once they got into the red zone, whether it be a screen pass or they just keep pounding the ball. Like, he was such a heavy point of that scoring for the offense there, where I don't know if he's going to be the main point in Atlanta. You have a big guy like Julio that obviously is going to demand touchdowns. Calvin Ridley should have a bigger year. They love to pass the ball, Matt Ryan. So I'm just not sure that he's going to provide that same scoring impact that you've seen in years past. So that is my one concern. I think he can bounce back in terms of his yards, but I'm just kind of worried about if he's going to be able to bring the same amount of touchdowns to Atlanta as he did to LA.
I mean, you got those big guys that you're talking about, but they're also big blockers too. I mean, Hayden Hurst is on there as well. So, I mean, I don't know. It could unfold.
Could open
both
it
ways.
up for him.
Yeah.
Well, we will have to see. Next up on our list is someone we just spoke about a little bit in our Would You Rather kind of questionnaire. Miles Sanders coming in as our consensus running back 15. Ashton, you're the highest on him at running back 13. Finishes running back 15 last year. What do you kind of see as the range of outcomes for Miles Sanders? Do you think he's going to be – a lot of people are really building the hype around him. I've seen him start to go in round one, at the end of round one in a lot of drafts. People are thinking he's going to be, this big workhorse back, going to get 250 carries, going to be the guy in Philly. They haven't had a feature back in quite some time. So Why do you think Miles Sanders is that guy?
I think just out of necessity. I mean, they have to use him and his talent there, and they have to open up the game plan around that too. I mean, he has the ability there. He has the ability to be a 15-plus, touch per game running back. So with the talent there and the capabilities to lead as an RB1, they don't have a choice in this situation. They have to start building this offense, and this is the year they got to do it. So, with Carson Wentz fully healthy, putting on some weight, putting on some muscle, hopefully the offensive line has improved this year. I'm still a little worried about their receiving. I know they added some speed as well, but Deshaun Jackson's their number one receiver, and he's not durable.
It's not good, Bob.
So I think Miles Sanders could, between him and Boston Scott could be the stars of this offense this year. So he's got to get the job done.
So I kind of just like I was talking about earlier, and like Ashton just touched on, is there's just too many injuries, and the ball's got to go somewhere. And Miles Sanders is extremely talented. So, and they also took him as a second round pick in 2019. So, the draft capital was there, and we saw him once he did get those touches, like Ashton was saying, he had some really big games. Week 15, 16, when you're in the playoffs, he put up 22 points, 30 points when he had 19 and 20 rushes, and he had 6 and 5 receptions. So when he's featured in the game, I think he's really going to make an impact. And I think I want to, just looking at some of this stuff, I hate the Eagles, as I have said before, so it makes it really hard for me. But as a non-biased fantasy analyst, I would say I got to move him up a little bit higher.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I need to move him up as well. When I was going through my NFC running backs, he kind of stood out to me as someone who he can only go up in terms of his value,
mainly because I saw Gurley right next to him.
Given the amount of touches he had last year, that has to go up. He was given a chance as a rookie and show that he was really valuable. So I think they're really going to try to give him a little bit more trust in year 2, and you're going to see that bump in terms of his value. He's going to sneak in, I think, to continue to be a running back 1 in fantasy. So I am excited for Miles Sanders. I think he's going to be a value for you, especially based on where he's being drafted. If you can get him at the back end of round 2, I mean, that's a really great value for Miles Sanders right now. Next up on our list, our second to last running back from the NFC is Chris Carson. Ashton, I know you have some concerns about his injuries. I was looking into his stats a little bit earlier, and I don't think he's as injury prone as you might think. I think the thing with Chris Carson is that he always frustrates you in that he'll be healthy all week, and then he'll get injured at the start of a game and sit out the whole game. But
He had a torn. Oh no, I'm sorry. That was Rashad Penny. Go ahead.
Rashad Penny.
He doesn't miss extended weeks, I think, with Chris Carson. He just he'll start a game and then he'll play like a couple snaps and then he'll stop, which I think is the frustrating thing with him. But he played in 14 games last year and 15 games the year before. So he hasn't been missing games like I thought might be the case. But
he had a season-ending. He had a hip injury last year.
Yeah.
Well, he still played 15.
That was week 16. He played. I mean, he had
278 carries.
Yeah, but my only concern with that is hip injuries are like devastating. Like they're one of the hardest injuries to recover from. So I'm just a little concerned with him coming in this year. Even though they're quoting saying that he's healthy, that's very easy to re-injure in this game. So just a little concerned about that.
That's fair. Well, he was running back 11 last year and running back 15 in 2018. He's part of one of the most run heaviest offenses in the NFL. Yep. What seems to be the issue? Like, why can't Chris Carson break into that running back one discussion? Like, why is he – they had a lot of hype around him last year. A lot of people were thinking he was going to be this huge stud running back one and just missed the cut. Why do you think that is? Why can't he be elite?
I mean, my first thought is I think they're going to pass the ball more. I mean, I don't think they're going to rely on – they were supposed to be the top running game led offense last year, and were they? Who was?
No, Baltimore was.
Yeah. I mean, did Seattle?
I think they were number 2 though.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't trust that it's gonna be a full bounce, like a repeat from last year, and I'm not necessarily set on Chris Carson running with his full potential. I still think he's very talented. I still think he's a good pickup. I picked him up last year in my draft, and I was stoked about it. But he had some games that were great, and other games I was just kind of disappointed with how the whole scheme planned out. So, I mean, last year he had 1,230 yards, 278 attempts. He had 7 touchdowns. I mean, I was just anticipating closer 9-10 touchdowns on that. Hopefully he can get there this year, but I'm not relying on it.
Well, you got Russell Wilson there too, and he's obviously extremely talented. And he's been – I know we've talked about it before that he's trying to get – he wants to pass more. And I think that's the concern here, Steph. I think he's going kind of where he belongs based on his usage. 37 receptions last year, 20 the year before. I mean, that's just not going to bring you into that upper echelon of the top running backs when – he's getting 1,000 yards both years. What did you say he finished last year?
Running back 11.
11 last year and 15 the year before or something like that?
The year before, yep.
Right. So, I mean, okay, he's having a great football season, but for fantasy, it's not enough if you can't really bring in that reception and just the receiving game. I think that's where you'll get a lot of that. That's why I think he's where he's going right now. We've got him at 17. I think he's going 16 right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's a good running back too for your team.
But he's going to be someone's RB1. Like that's going to be someone's RB1. And I don't know. I would hope this year, based on how many running backs you're going to need on your roster.
Yeah.
How critical the running back is this year in fantasy. I'm just aiming to hit as high as I can with that. And he's just not hitting. He's not hitting top 10 for me.
Well, Rashad Penny is expected to miss the first 6 weeks. So I think if Chris Carson's healthy, they're going to be pounding the ball with him. He's going to get as many touches as he wants.
Don't forget about Carlos Hyde out there, okay?
I'm not worried about Carlos Hyde.
He's a 1,000 yards last year. Play.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think Chris Carson's going to be the guy. I can't imagine him getting into that top 10 discussion, though, which is my only concern. I don't think he has the upside that some of these other guys around these picks have, but I think he'll probably be more consistent than some of these guys. So it kind of depends on the route you're looking to go, what you got in the first 2 rounds, because he is going in round 3, back end of round 3. So if you can get him as a running back 2, even possibly running back 3, it's a great pickup. But lastly, to wrap up our top 24 running backs, we have David Montgomery, which was quite the surprise when I was putting together these rankings for us. I had him last year, and I was just pulling my hair out all season, waiting for this guy to have a good game. Every time I felt like he had a good game, I had him on my bench because I was so frustrated from the weeks before. Finishes running back 25 in his rookie season. I mean, he had all of the opportunity. He had 242 carries in his rookie year, which is crazy that an offense would trust a rookie that much. But he just didn't ever look good to me. Like, he never looked great. I don't ever remember him having a rush of more than like 10 plus yards. Like, I feel like every time they give him the ball, he'd run through the middle of the line and just fall over
Get
1 2
stopped.
yards.
Yeah, I mean, look at his average, his yards per carry, 3.7. That's not what you want. 242 attempts. It's scary. But the Bears, they were just, I don't know. Mitch Trubisky there. I'm hoping Nick Foles will take over, and here another guy, 25 receptions, 185 yards. That's just not going to do it. But if he keeps so I have him the highest. I've got him at 21, and that's based on volume alone. I think.
Yeah, they just don't have anyone else as a 3-down back. I mean, their next.
They got Tariq Cohen still, who's going to definitely catch some passes. Yeah. But so I mean, obviously that's where he loses the reception work. But I think if they just get him anywhere close, 35 targets, that's just not great. But I think the team, I'm hoping Nick Foles is out there and he's just airing it out a little bit, and maybe they won't like Stefen was saying, he's running into guys like right after he gets the ball. Maybe it'll kind of open things up for him. But that's kind of what the attempts are there. He just needs to be more efficient. Obviously, it was his rookie season. Stefen hopped on that hype train, got his heart broken. But I think he could bounce back this year and be a decent RB2. Like I said, I got him at 21.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more worried about his upside. Like, I don't think he has the capability to finish very high, which is only my concern. Because, you look at where he's getting drafted and some running backs getting drafted around him, and I can't see one name around him that I wouldn't take over him. So he's currently being drafted as running back 25. At running back 24, you have David Johnson. Are you taking David Johnson over David Montgomery?
Oh, I'm taking my boy,
10
Big
times
Dave.
out of 10. There's no question that you're not taking David Johnson. Running back 23, Jonathan Taylor. You taking Jonathan Taylor over David Montgomery?
No, I'm taking Montgomery. Volume alone.
I can't imagine that. I think
Volume.
Jonathan Taylor is so good. Like, you saw what he did in college. He's one of the best college running backs of all time.
I just read you some news before we did this.
I'm not worried
coming out of Indianapolis that Jonathan Taylor will share touches with the starter.
I'll take shared touches on one of the best offensive lines compared to David Montgomery in Chicago. What about Raheem Mostert, running back 26? You take Raheem Mostert?
No, no, I'd take Montgomery.
Oh, I take Mostert all day.
On the carousel, the Shanahan carousel?
That's fine. I'll take my 4 touchdown games with Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, I guess so. You'd need to be playing best ball with him.
What are your thoughts on David Montgomery, Ashton?
I don't think it's an extreme talent there. I think he's the best 3-down back option they have right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they started looking for someone else to pick up to put on the roster too. I don't know, unless one of these 3rd or 4th string guys come in and surprise us. But I wouldn't be surprised about signing someone else or a trade later on.
Well, we saw Jordan Howard be pretty decent there. But I'm looking at his stats too. Just in general, I guess maybe it is because Tariq Cohen's there. Jordan Howard, I know he's not great at receiving as it is, but he never had more than 30 receptions. So that's just – it could be a team thing or Jordan Howard just sucked. But he was a 3rd-round pick. It's just scary in Chicago. So, RB2, like I said, volume is the only thing I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I think when you get to David Montgomery, you got to know what you're getting with David Montgomery. You're not
Exactly.
getting a guy who's going to give you running back 1 weeks and a week in and week out. You're getting a guy who's going to get touches. He's going to give you 10-point games, but he's not going to give you these huge, monstrous games. He's just not that type of fantasy.
As far as talent-wise, let me ask you this. If you had to choose between David Montgomery and a backup like Alexander Madison, who would say Alexander Madison was on a starting – like a RB1, who would you pick talent-wise?
I think there's a lot of question marks going to it. Depends
Yeah,
on
it
the
depends,
offense. Depends on the offensive line. Depends on the situation.
Put him in the Bears offense.
Oh, I'll take Alexander Madison.
And Latavius Murray.
But that's not the situation that we're in. Like,
I'm just asking. That's what my comparison is to the talent.
1 year,
think,
guys. Give him some time. He was a rookie.
Yeah.
he didn't seem great last year in terms of talent and explosiveness, but that could be a result of that offense. Who knows? We'll have to see more in year 2.
For sure.
But that does wrap up our top 24 running backs. There's quite a few surprises for me when I was looking at our top 24. We'll have to see how they keep fluctuating as the season comes a little closer. But we will start on wide receivers next week. I'm sure there'll be even more surprises in there that I'm not expecting. But yeah, I mean, the running backs ended up being quite surprising to me. We'll see. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm going to have to make some changes.
Yeah, we'll have to see the kind of changes you guys make now that we've actually discussed them all. We've shared our opinions. We'll constantly see how those are updated. We'll continue to update our rankings on our socials as well. So make sure to check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I don't know if we have a Snapchat yet. Maybe we should get a Snapchat. As well as watch our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Music. But that wraps it up for me, guys. If you guys don't have anything else, we can call it an episode.
That's it.
All right. There you go.
Goodbye.